Hello and welcome to another video. In this one I'm doing something a little bit different. Instead of painting straight into my sketchbook, I thought I would make 6 original mini paintings. The paper that I'm using now isn't cut to a specific size. It was left over from a previous project and I can't remember what it was, but it's watercolor paper. I think some of it's different as well. I don't, it's just from a pile of watercolor paper that's cut to this size. Um, and I'm just taping it down. I just decided if I was going to do 6 original paintings, I could maybe see if I could do them all at the same time. I did limit myself for time, so the children are off school at the moment, and I thought, well, I'm going to give myself an hour. Well, I gave myself just over an hour sort of prep time, and then I said to myself that I would do an hour of painting, and so that's what I've done. So as I was sticking these down, I'm trying to think whether I'm going to use references or whether I'm just going to make them up as I go. I didn't know at this point if I was going to be painting 6 of the same thing or if I was going to be painting 6 separate landscapes. So I got out my supplies. So I've got my usual watercolor paints, I've got my Derwent Drawing pencils, and I even brought out some acrylic markers which have been sat on the top of my drawers for such a long time. I thought I would bring those out and use them as well, just in case, just having them nearby in case I wanted to reach for them. I haven't done this kind of painting style where I'm doing like 6 of them at the same time, so I just wanted to have things on hand that I might want to reach for, things that I might need. I've also got my water brushes and I've got a little sprayer filled with water that I like to spray on paper, and it also keeps my paints nice and hydrated. So now I've got everything out, I'm just ready to get going. And at this point, I still don't know what I'm going to be painting. I start by wetting the paper, and I know that my favourite colour is green, and so I go in with a little bit of a green colour on each one. And I'm trying to think at the same time, without references, I'm starting to think about places I've been, things I've seen, landscapes I have painted in the past, and using those as a little bit of a base point for references in my mind. I guess that this could be like a good practice for using my imagination and not always using references. Um, Really, I just wanted to paint and I wasn't really sure. And you probably see the moment I'm sort of starting with similar shapes on each of them, and then you'll see the mindset change and just sort of going with the flow. And I sort of ease into it a little bit more. It's less scary because there's not really individual 6 pages in front of me. It's one that's divided into 6 pieces. That's the way sort of my brain is looking at it. Um, so there was a few pauses where I'm looking at the paper and I'm trying to think, and you can see the top 3 all have similar shapes, bottom 3 also have similar shapes, and I was possibly thinking, maybe I'm gonna paint the same landscape from different viewpoints, things like that. But as I go along, you'll see that it changes a little bit. I'm starting to think more individual pieces, and I'm really impressed with what I did come out with at the end. So in the bottom middle panel, I decided that I wanted to do a path. Sort of, I had in mind like a little dust and sandy kind of yellow path with flowers and grass, tall grasses either side. And thought of the bottom right one, that would be sort of like some hills with the different levels, maybe tall grasses at the front. And that's all I really knew. I definitely decided that I wanted to go for 6 separate ones as a little challenge. But having started with similar shapes at the top and the bottom, it was kind of difficult to imagine them, but I'm glad that I put something down because it's better than staring at something that's plain white. For me, it's sort of an intimidation when something is plain bright white. It's more scary putting paint down, putting things down on there. And so yeah, I'm just gonna go between them. I'm just going with the flow. As soon as I have an idea, I'll move on to the next panel and then I can come back and use the colours that I've been using amongst them. So I'm focusing mainly on this path one. This is the one that I sort of in my head could see. And when I'm using those colours, I'm thinking, where else could I use that? And you can see it's building up, it's coming together, and you can tell when my brain was like, ah, this colour has made me think of something, and it goes in like that. So using that brown colour to add in a little bit of the depth and maybe some stones along the path, that gave me the idea of darkening up some of the areas in the top left, maybe adding in some trees and using it as like the shadow, like the base layer of whatever it was that I was gonna be painting on top of there. Decided in the top right one that I was gonna have some lovely pine trees, which I never really paint those, but it came in my brain and I thought, well, I'm gonna get that down. So then adding that in, adding those trees in, it gave sort of like a little bit of depth so I could see, okay, maybe I could have a tree in the distance, one or two that are closer by. And you can see each time I'm picking up a different colour, it's making us think, ooh, on this next panel, I'll add this in. And then a mountainous sort of frame was born in the top middle one. And so I'm just going between them, and it's a really freeing way of making, 6 pieces of art. I would say that 4 of them are maybe my favorites. But I would never have made the ones that are my favorite without the two that weren't, if that makes sense. So you can see I'm spending a lot of time just going between, adding little bits in as I've got colours on the brush, mixing colours in, and it all builds up. It's all like a trust the process sort of situation where you're sort of building up colours, you're building up tones, you're thinking of ideas. I added in this striking red on the bottom left and immediately regretted it. It was going to be like a little chalet or like a little shepherd's hut sort of thing with trees and all of those things, but with the others being so scenic and green, I think I got a little bit scared with the red, and you'll see that soon. I'm going to cover that up and just I go in a different direction with that one. The one in the top right is really coming together, and it even surprised me, like adding in water. So there's a mountainous um form in the back, there's the trees, there's grass, there's like a little bit of like a hill. It's amazing when there's no references in sight. You just sort of, this is all coming from my brain, and then it inspired me to add water into this other one, and it was great. I would definitely recommend trying this if you haven't already. Um, I'm just making sure I'm keeping it nice and wet, I'm keeping it nice and loose, so then when I can add colours in, I can smear them around with my hand. It's just a way that I like to work, and I would recommend you at least try it. It's very freeing. You feel very connected with the artwork, I feel, because you've got your fingers in there, you're moving it around, and sometimes you get a texture that you might not necessarily get with a paintbrush. And yeah, it's just the way that I like to work. I'm going in now and in some brown tones. I think you can see that it's very light, it's very pastely. The bottom middle one stands out because it has contrast, it has levels. I feel like I'm trying to bring that into all of the others using like a darker tone, adding in some levels, some shading, things like that. Um, and it really just comes to life the more that I add. I've left that red roof and I do come back to it and I do fix it. But I think I left it there while I was trying to think whether I could save it or whether it was too striking and bright that I needed to maybe tone it down or just change it completely. And spoiler alert, I completely change it, cover it up, and yeah, I think the idea that I had in my head was really lovely, but I'll just maybe have to try that a different day because today wasn't the day. I didn't want to force myself into doing anything that, like, if I changed my mind, I wanted to let myself be free to honor that and move on and see what other ideas I could come up with. And I think that's really good practice um in terms of like mindfulness, just remembering that you are the driver, you are the artist, and your art, it comes out of your brain. And sometimes if you force it, you get a little bit stagnant and you're more likely to want to give up or burn out and use a lot more energy because you're trying to think about fixing something. When, if you have the idea, okay, I'm going to change this, I'm going to have this different, that's okay too. You're completely in control and no one's going to know really what was in your head before compared to what it is now. I will say that fear does creep in sometimes with painting, especially when you're painting and you're filming it. I find that the art that I make when I'm filming, sometimes I get worried that it's not good enough and I need to get out of that mindset because I love it. It's the practice that's most important for me. It's the act of painting and being creative and learning and using colors to express things that I can see. And yeah, I think I need to get out of the mindset that it's it might not be good enough for someone because the fact that I'm sharing it, it's like it's more of a documentation, it's a diary, I could look back and see the journey that I've gone on with my art and how it's changed, how it's gone better, how I've learnt things, maybe I've experimented with new mediums, maybe I've moved on from landscapes to something else and maybe I'll come back. I don't know. It's sort of something that I could look back on and see this is where I started and this is where I am now. And also, like, I'm running a business at the same time. So I want some of my artwork. I want to be in a place where I feel confident enough that I could have some of these illustrations, some of my paintings on sale. And I think the mindset that I'm in right now is that I'll put these ones up for sale as originals on my Etsy store. I think that would be one step closer to sort of the kind of artist that I want to be. I want to be able to sell some of my works, and these are like early editions, but if someone likes them, then they're available. Um, I kind of like the idea that there's only one of them as well. Like there's not copies, there's no print versions of these. I think that I really like that exclusivity sort of idea about them. But yeah, if you want one of these, you don't have to buy them. But if you want one, they will be available in my Etsy shop. And because there's only one of each of them, if they're not listed when this video goes live, they have probably sold, but I'm guessing that they'll all be there. And I might try and get into this habit. I definitely want to see if I could sell some of my art because then I could call myself like a real artist. I think I've only ever sold two original paintings that were watercolors. I think I've only sold one that was acrylic, but that was to someone that I know. And so it would be really nice to sort of build out that way where my YouTube channel sort of content of me painting and the things that I love to do could then marry up with my Etsy shop, because at the moment my Etsy shop is very much a sticker shop and it's doing really well. It's doing much better this month than it did like previous months. But it would be really nice to add in some paintings. And so, yeah, I guess I'm just sharing what's in my brain right now, but I'll get back to the painting. So, you can see that I've covered up that red roof that was going to be of the chalet shepherd's hut sort of situation. And to be honest, I added in these trees, love the trees. And then I panicked. I didn't really think about what was going to be in the background. I didn't think about like the layering, like where things were. I just thought I had this floating tree. Um, and so I'm darkening it up and I'm trying to think about what I could have in there. And again, I'm trying not to stress out, I'm trying not to force anything. I'm just going with the flow. And you can see the other ones, the four that are on the right, they have really come together. And then the two on the left I did struggle with, and I'm not sure why. It's just the way that it happened. But adding in that brown, the dark tone, the dark colour, it added like a sense of depth. And I think I realised that I needed to add that elsewhere. So I needed to put that in the other paintings to sort of bring them back together and make sure that they all had value and they all, you could see them. They had like a, I don't know what the word is, but like contrast. You could see them. They have a little bit of depth. I think depth is the word I was looking for. Where you can see it's not just flat. It's, yeah, you get an idea. But yeah, I'm just adding in these darker colours, and I think that really helps. It really brings it together. Adding in the long grass that I had imagined in my head. And the whole time I'm just making sure that the brush never stops. I reminded myself that I only had an hour to do this, and I think I did pretty well. I think I did a really good job at the end, you'll see. And it's really interesting me watching this back to do the voiceover, seeing the sort of the method and seeing the process of it from the beginning, where I really didn't know what I was gonna do, and then knowing like what's coming, what's at the end. And I think it's really interesting to see that, and I hope you're enjoying watching this. But sometimes I forget, when you do a painting and you sort of, I mean, an hour's not a very long time for like a full painting. And I wouldn't necessarily say that if I had done these paintings with longer, they would have been better. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that an hour is not a very long time in comparison to some of the other paintings that I have done with watercolor. Because I always add like levels and I build things up, and sometimes that can take time. But I think within an hour, doing 6 paintings like this has just shown me that maybe I need to let go of some of that perfectionism. And that is the sort of style that I want to get into. I want to be more loose and more expressive with my art, and with these, I was able to do that without a reference, just using what was in my head. I think having references, like thinking about it for next time, would be much better in terms of knowing what I was going to paint. But this is a really good exercise for using my brain. And I guess I get like a sense of accomplishment for one, thinking of what I was going to paint and thinking of like essentially 6 landscapes, and then for two, for painting them. And I'm quite proud of myself. So I'm going in now mostly with the pencil, and I've also brought in some of the acrylic markers. I really struggled with the bottom left in trying to make it work. I couldn't figure out what it was supposed to look like, and you'll see I changed it a little bit more later on. I'm adding in this light pink, which I think sort of lifts some of the darkness from it. I think I struggled a bit because I'd had to cover up that red. Um, Adding this sense of lightness and light coming through the trees really made a difference. And I then used the white and the pink mostly in all of the others just to lighten it up. Um, Obviously, I added in some of the peachy pink coloured flowers in the middle one on the bottom, and I'm using the white to lighten up the sky and the ground. So I'm using this mostly for the clouds, but sometimes I've put it on like the hills for a sense of where the light might be hitting it. I also decided to add in a bunch more flowers into the middle one on the bottom. You can see I'm adding in little white dots. I'm trying to give the illusion of distance, so making them a bit bigger at the front and then making them a little bit smaller at the back. I kept trying to get the pen to splash when it was like inked up, but it wasn't budging. So I decided instead to put some of the paint from the pen in my palette, mix it with water, and then flick it with the paintbrush. That worked, and then I went in with the pen itself to add some more. I decided as well to add in some of the dots on the others because I thought it worked so well. It adds a little something to it. It's another detail that catches your eye, something else to look at. And with it being so light, it adds like an airiness and a freshness I find in the paintings. So while I was armed with the white pen, I decided to cover up some of the water and just lighten it up a little bit on this bottom right one. I found that my eye was drawn to that one a little bit too much. And I think once I added the pencil in, it marries in so nicely to all the others. The ones with water, it has a lovely soft and gentle feel to it. So now it's the moment that people find very satisfying. I do apologize, it's not very satisfying on my part because I peeled it off and it was still a little bit damp, a little bit wet, and it ripped in some places. But it's okay, I did fix it at the end. Something I did notice is that I didn't do a very bad job of making the lines straight. They're not the best, but I wasn't trying to make them straight. I just wanted to stick the paper down. And I did quite a good job because once I peel these bits off, if you minus the bits that ripped, pretty straight lines. I always love this bit when I watch it. I've watched it a few times over and over because it's just magic. It's like this was one piece with 6 paintings on it, and now they're all 6 individual pieces, and I love I love this process. I'll definitely do it again. I might even try it with more or maybe with less. I don't know. Maybe without a time limit. But here they are. Just a quick little tidy up of the corners that ripped, and here they are. So I'll start off with this one. This one was the one I struggled with the most, but it turned into a lovely woodland scene. This one, very simple with trees. This one's my favorite, I think. A little path with some flowers. This one may be the most unexpected. It looks like it could be somewhere, and I don't know where it is because it's from my brain. And the same with this one. If I had more time, I would have defined the trees a little bit more, but very nice. And this one makes me really happy. I don't know what it is. I think it's the mix of colours in it, but I really love them. So there you go. This is my hands afterwards. I forgot that I was using acrylic paint and how sticky it is. But yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video. It means the world to me that you've chosen me to watch, and I would love to know what your favourite piece was if you want to comment that below. Any likes and subscriptions are amazing, and I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, and I will see you very soon.